Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, FDA approved for over 20 years. So, talk to your specialist to see if Botox Cosmetic is right for you.
For full prescribing information, including boxed warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
Remember to ask for Botox Cosmetic by name. To see for yourself and learn more, visit BotoxCosmetic.com. That's BotoxCosmetic.com.
Today on CityCast Houston, there's no better time than the holidays to indulge in our city's amazing, diverse food scene. So I'm revisiting one of my favorite conversations about Hillcroft, Houston's foodie paradise and one of our most diverse streets. Joining me are Sharan Gahunia from Raja's Sweets, the city's first Indian restaurant, and our executive producer, Laura Isensee, who grew up in Southwest Houston, to guide you through the spots you can't miss that are perfect for celebrating the season. It's Thursday, December 26th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Oh man, I hope everyone is hungry because I can't wait for this episode. Sharan, what's up? Welcome into CityCast Houston.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And of course, Laura is here as well. What's up, Laura?
Hey, glad to be behind the mic with y'all.
I know. I'm so pumped for this episode because this is a street that is so special to all three of us. And when listeners think about Hillcroft, they're like, wait, this is a really long street if you look on Google Maps. But for this conversation, I want to focus on this like roughly 5-mile stretch that goes from Westheimer down to Bissonnette, right? Because this includes the Mahatma Gandhi district, which features some of the best South Asian and Middle Eastern food, and also the Gulfton area, which is like the Ellis Island of Houston with over 50 languages spoken and home to so many recent immigrants from Central America and Mexico. How would y'all describe this iconic stretch for people who aren't familiar with it?
I would describe it as basically a place where they can find home, right? Like, I feel like that stretch is dedicated to mostly immigrants, and you have immigrants that came and established their businesses there. So when somebody wants to taste a piece of home, they go and they venture out. So that's how I see it.
Oh, that is such a beautiful way to put it. How about you, Laura?
You know what? That really resonates with me too, because I grew up one block off of Hillcroft. And my dad's office in the 80s and most of the 90s was also one block off of Hillcroft, just a few miles away. So literally my childhood was like up and down Hillcroft. And also my first job reporting. I did a lot of reporting in Gulfton along Hillcroft. So it is home to me. Is kind of also the world, because you have a window into so many different places from around the world, so many different cultures in Houston. And when people ask me what my favorite street in Houston is, Hillcroft is like one of the top two, if not the very top one.
For me, Hillcroft is an entry or gateway street. Okay. And what I mean by this is what you just mentioned. You were just a block off of it, right? And there are so many great places on Hillcroft, but also when you're driving down Hillcroft, there's so many little blocks and streets that will have just as good or if not better places to check out. So it's almost like a gateway street. And of course, the major arteries are intersecting with Hillcroft, right? You think of Westheimer, Richmond. So it's just a fun street. And as I mentioned in the intro, I grew up right there working at my dad's store right off of Harwin. See, another gateway street, right? But this street is so beautiful. It's always packed and you'll always find something to eat. So the way we're going to structure this conversation, because there are so many delicious places to check out on Hillcroft, we're going to bring our top 3 places that listeners need to try, okay? And we'll just go around and throw some ideas out and places that people need to check out. I know guests should go first, but I want to kick this off because Sharan, I don't know if you're going to pick your own place or not, but Raja's Sweets is my first pick of places you have to check out when you're on Hillcroft. Raja's is the OG. It was the first South Asian restaurant, and it's one of the few places for me where I go for my highs and my lows. And what I mean by that is I've literally picked up mithai, which is a South Asian sweet. It's a dessert, and there are several types that you have to try. But I've literally picked up mithai for weddings, And then it was the first place I went to after my grandma passed away because we were picking up laddus, which is a form of mithai that you always bring to the person's house that just passed away, right? So like I get emotional thinking about it because I've celebrated so many great moments there and celebrated the life of my grandma because literally like as soon as I found out, my dad was like, you know where to go, right? I go, yep, I'm going to Raja's right now to pick up laddus, right? So it's a special place to me. And now these days when I drive down Hillcroft, every time I pass Raja's, Sharon, I have to stop in and get ras malai, which is my favorite dessert ever when it comes to South Asian cuisine.
What's ras malai? I haven't had that one.
Yeah, Sharon, do you want to describe it?
So ras malai is like this milky dessert. It's made out of cheese and milk, and then it's like in milk. And then some people add like saffron or pistachios. You could add anything on the top. We don't because a lot of people have allergies. But it's a really refreshing dessert, especially to have in the summertime here.
Yeah, it's cold. They're like cheese balls and they're just marinated in the sweet milk syrup sauce thing. It's just perfect.
Yes.
Every South Asian family has their own recipe, but to me, Raja's is the one that is consistent. So I love Raja's sweets. And the history behind it, everything is handmade, right? Like y'all are grinding every single day making fresh mithai.
Yes.
It takes so long. Like how long does it take for y'all to do that?
Oh my God, it takes all day. And a lot of people don't even know that we have North Indian food because we only spend like 2 hours a day making that. And the rest of the 8 hours a day is focused on making sweets because we make everything by hand. It's so time consuming, but since we make everything in-house fresh, you got to make it. Then there's a cooling process. Then there's a process to add sugar. So it takes a lot of time, but I would say 8 hours out of the day we're making sweets. Yeah.
Wow.
6 days a week. We close on Tuesdays.
So I'm embarrassed to say I have not been.
Oh my goodness.
So what would you recommend if it's my first time getting some sweets? And I do have a sweet tooth, so.
Let's start with the first couple popular ones. Obviously, the most popular one we have is gulab jamun, which is like this donut hole. And it's soaked in sugar, honey, rose water, a mixture of all that. And it's the most popular. That's really good. And then Julie is the second most popular one. So Julie is a combination of ras malai and chum chum put together. And that was my dad's original creation. We started it at Raja Sweets, and now there's restaurants across the world that mimic it. Somebody brought us like a menu from Pakistan, and they actually mimic the same thing, Julie. And they make it exactly like we do. I don't know if the taste is the same, but I know my dad was the one who started it, and he came up with the name. And then my favorite, I love chickpeas. There's a dessert called Magas, and Magas, and it's made from chickpeas flour, and they have crushed walnuts, almonds, pistachios in it. And it almost tastes like peanut butter brittle, but it's kind of crunchy. It's really good. It's so good with a cup of tea. So I often recommend that.
Yeah, the Julie is so good, Laura. I'm going to pick you up some. You have to try it. It is addicting.
I really want to try that last one. The chickpea with nuts, that has my name on it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not terribly sweet, and it's really good. You got to have it with a cup of tea.
Perfect.
Got to get some chai while you're there.
Yes.
And by the way, if you are new to Raja's, just ask for recommendations when you go up there. Again, it is overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Like when you go there, there's just so many options and they are so helpful. So that's my first pick. Sharon, how about you? You can't pick your own place. I picked it. I was going to pick it either way. Okay. Even if you weren't on the podcast, but I'm curious, what is your first place that we need to try on Hillcroft?
I would pick a family favorite of ours is London Sizzler.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't know this, but me, my brother, sister, everybody was born in London. So my parents owned a restaurant in London before they opened Raja Sweets in Houston, Texas. But nonetheless, London Sizzler kind of reminds us of how they make food back at home in London. And just some of the way they cook the curries, the fish. So that is one of my top favorites. We always go to London Sizzler. And we're like, oh, where do you want to eat other than Raja Sweets?
Mm-hmm.
So we head over to London Sizzler. And now the national food in London is curry. It used to be fish and chips.
Yes.
And they changed it to curry. And you have so many Indian establishments popping up there because it's so popular. Obviously, it's flavorful and there's so much to offer. But it's, I enjoy London Sizzler.
That sounds so good. The first and only time I've been to London, the best place we went to was this place called Soho Spice, which was exactly that, like South Asian curry. And it was amazing. So now I just want to go to London Sizzler and relive that experience. But I bet it's maybe even better. And this is like in that corner shopping plex, like right at 59.
Yes, the red one. That's right at 59 in Hillcroft, to be exact. There's a red shopping center.
Yeah.
And with a lot of other establishments as well. But yeah, it's right there.
Are you ordering the chicken tikka masala when you go there? Is that the play?
Yes, they have a chicken tikka masala nachos.
What?
It is to die for.
Okay.
Yes, you have to try that. That's one of my favorites there. And I love they have this paneer dish. I forgot the name of it, but it's not like heavy. You know, the thing with some of the Indian places I've tried, you feel heavy afterwards. And that's one place where we do not feel heavy. It's a family favorite.
All right, I got to go back and check it out. It's been decades since I've went to London Sizzler, so I'm putting that back on my list as well.
Yes.
Laura, what is your first pick on Hillcroft?
My first pick is something that you weren't originally going to let me talk about because you wanted to limit this to only Hillcroft between Westheimer and Bellaire. So this is actually a little bit south of Bellaire. So my top pick is Drewby's Bakery and Deli, which is a Middle Eastern bakery and deli, but actually much more than that. It was founded by a Lebanese immigrant, A.J. Drewby, back in 1979, and it's still family owned. And what I love about Drewby's is that when you go in and order food, it's almost like a buffet. Like you kind of make your own hot plate. They have really wonderful lunch. You know, you can get great falafel, shawarma, lamb shank, rice. But in addition to that, they also have Middle Eastern pastries. They have this whole like market section inside where you can get spices and coffee, cooking oils. In their title, it's bakery and deli. So they have lots of fresh like Arabic bread, fresh feta cheeses. So I love the combo of like this lunch counter, plus you get to do some shopping and fill up your spice rack. And it's very authentic and very affordable. And you're not paying whole food prices. So that's one of my favorite places. Again, like the food is so good. It's like when I eat there, I feel like I have this auntie I never knew about. Yeah. This like Lebanese auntie, because it's like very homemade. You don't feel like you're eating at a restaurant.
That's going to be a big trend as we talk about a lot of the places here. Everything just feels like you're eating at somebody's house. And it truly is that. It's a lot of these businesses are started as people who are like, hey, I'm not from the restaurant industry. I just want to start this place up, right? And serve my food and serve what I grew up eating. Okay, I'm adding that to my list because I'll be honest, my Hillcroft ends at 59. I rarely go past 59. I used to. There was a restaurant. Sharon, I don't know if you remember this place, but there's a place called Shake Chili,
yes,
which was really popular, and it was on that side of Hillcroft. But I don't make my way down that side as much. But now I will because Drewby sounds fantastic.
Yeah, highly recommend. You got to check it out.
I'm going to add it to my list as well.
Looking for a pickup truck to get just about anything done? Look no further. The Chevy Silverado EV isn't just the most powerful Silverado ever, with next-level towing capability and technology. It also offers game-changing versatility with the available multi-flex midgate and tailgate, which means Silverado EV helps you carry large, bulky, and oddly shaped items up to nearly 11 feet in length. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive. Visit Chevrolet.com to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Okay, I'm going to give my second pick if that's okay. And this is the place my family always ends up at night for dinner. And this is Reza Persian Grill. There are so many Persian grills now across the city of Houston doing some really good kebabs and kubadeh and all sorts of meats grilled to perfection. but I've found that Reza is the best one according to my taste, according to how I like food cooked, and consistency. And I know, Sharon, you're probably like, hold on, I love this place, so I'll let you add on to it, but it's not your official pick.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites since they opened, and now they've renovated the place, made it bigger, more spacious. But man, their hummus is to die for.
Hmm.
They have the best tasting hummus that I've tasted anywhere in Houston. So yeah, I frequent that place a lot. And actually, the owner likes Raja sweets, and sometimes I'm like, "Hey, let's trade. You give me a plate of this, I'm going to bring you a plate of curry and rice." It's funny, but yeah, that's one of my top picks as well.
Okay, Sharon, what's your next pick?
My next pick is going to be Shri Balaji Bhavan. It's a completely vegetarian restaurant. It's actually the same shopping strip as Raja Sweets, but they offer a lot of vegan and vegetarian dishes. I would say more South Indian. So whenever you feel like having a really good dosa, we just walk, 3 doors over and have it there. They're really good. The consistency of the dosa and the chutneys and everything that they serve, I've always liked that. So that is going to be my second pick.
And for those of you who aren't familiar what a dosa is, it's like a paper thin crepe filled usually with a spicy potato mix and some other vegetables and served with some sauces, served with some idli. It's so good. It's not a full meal for me at least, but it's a nice pick-me-up snack. All right, Laura, we're going to head to you. What is your next recommendation?
Okay, my next recommendation is going to get you south of 59. You said you kind of stay on the north part. Well, if you go south, this is one of the best parts of Hillcroft, but it's actually one that I only recently came to fully appreciate when I started dating my now husband, who's half Salvadoran. So when we started dating, he introduced me to his favorite comfort food, which is pupusas, which, if you don't know, are basically the national food of El Salvador. So we would go out and check out different pupuserias, usually along Hillcroft in Southwest Houston. There are a lot of great options. Kind of like you said, Raheel, Hillcroft is a gateway. So there's some that are right on Hillcroft. One of my favorites is just a little bit off of Hillcroft on Renwick, El Pupusodromo. But there's also Mama Rosa's, which a friend really loves, and also La Pupusa Loca. One of the things I love about the pupuserias is that so many of them have these creative, really fun names.
Mm-hmm. Laura, I'm going to interrupt you here real quick. Can you describe exactly what is a pupusa for listeners who don't know?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, it's kind of the national food of El Salvador. And I sort of describe it as a really thick quesadilla or maybe like an arepa. It's basically a circle, usually corn-based dough, and it has a filling. Like the classic is cheese, but you can also have different meats, pork, beans, or another classic is loroco, which is the Salvadoran green. So there's lots of different options there. And if you're looking for the perfect pupusa, I went straight to the source, aka my mother-in-law, of what you should look for. Because again, there's so many different options. Basically, you don't want it too greasy and you don't want it too doughy. You want it a little crisp on the outside. And the classic is to have the corn dough, but they also have this rice dough. So you can have masa de maíz or masa de arroz. And then if you really want a classic traditional pupusa, you have to put curtido on top, which is this fermented cabbage and onion and carrots, which just gives this whole nother dimension of flavor and really balances with all this doughy, cheesy deliciousness. So for the record, my mother-in-law says she doesn't really like curtido, but she always has it on her pupusas.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. One of my best friends is always talking about the best pupusa spots. He's in LA now, but when he was here, he would always send me places and I would never go. I don't know why. I guess I'm just, I'm not as adventurous as I thought I was, but I need to start going to all these places. When we pull up, what's our perfect order, Laura? At any of the places, this is the type you need to get.
Well, you can't go wrong with just a cheese pupusa. Like I said, it's just doughy, cheesy. I mean, they cook it right then. It's hot. Basically, if you like queso, you're going to like a pupusa.
I'm in.
My second choice would be, I like to get them pupusa revuelto because that has like beans and ground pork. But you can also get chicharrón, like other meats in there too.
I love it. That sounds so good.
I'm writing this down because I'm going to get me a pupusa soon.
Okay, we are eating good right now on Hillcroft, and we still have another round of recommendations. Sharon, why don't you kick this one off? What do you got for us?
So my last pick is going to be a place that's been open, I think, as long as we have. I've seen this restaurant growing up every day, Durban.
Yes, it has.
It is located actually almost exact across the street from us, and they have the best kebabs. And the original owner, and I think he's elder now, but his son runs the place, kind of like me running Raja Sweets now that my parents are older. But the kebabs there have been consistently the same taste for the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And they're really good. So when we're having a get together, a gathering, we're like, okay, we'll just go by there and pick up kebabs. But they're beef kebabs, they're chicken kebabs. They're really good and tender and very flavorful.
Durban is such an OG
Yes.
now that you mention it. And, you know, when I would come to Rajas to get food or desserts, my dad would always send me there to pick up lunch for him because he loved the kebabs. And of course, you got to order like 5 naans because why not, right? Like you're just going to overstuff yourself with that. But yeah, that is a great pick.
Yeah, and I think it's a Houston staple. It's like I said, it's been around on Hillcroft for a really long time. And it's maintained the same ownership, same location, same everything. So it's a good spot to check out when you want kebabs.
That's one reason why I love Hillcroft is because so much of Houston has changed, even in the last like 5-10 years. But when I go to Hillcroft, there's these touchstone places that are still there, that are still family run. And I love going back in that touchstone. So I love that theme we have here going on.
I'm glad you brought that up because even though we're talking about food right now, there are these marquee businesses, these forever businesses that are on Hillcroft that you should always go check out, right? Like you've got the jewelry stores, you've got the sari stores, and you'll just see so many different types of businesses that don't be afraid to go in and just check it out. You don't have to buy anything. I have cousins who don't live in Houston will come to Houston just to shop on Hillcroft for their weddings.
Wow.
That's how important this street is when it comes to clothes as well.
Yeah, it really is because I've been told Dallas and Austin also have communities, but everything's spread out. It's not like 2-3 blocks like we have where you can just literally park your car in one spot and just kind of walk around the entire complex and get everything you need, you know? So it's a treasure for Houston.
I'm going to get to my final recommendation here. And while this place has really good food overall, I'm recommending Bismillah Restaurant and Cafe for their halwa puri breakfast on the weekends. And I have talked about halwa puri before on the podcast and recommending Aga's, which does a really good job on the weekends. But basically, halwa puri is this staple in South Asian homes where on the weekends, you're frying these really crispy breads and you're making this sweet halwa, which just complements the chickpea side that it comes with. And it's just the perfect sweet and savory balance that I think every Houstonian has to try. And I love going to Bismillah Cafe for it because they make it extra greasy. Okay. Because if I'm going to splurge on calories, I want the greasiest one out there. And they do such a great job.
That sounds really great. And I'm going to share my final pick, which, to be honest, I really wanted to take you a little further south down Hillcroft to the New York Bagel Shop. But since you won't let me go there, we're going to go to...
You got to tell me, what is the bagel shop? Come on. We'll drive a little bit more just for you.
It's this great New York style bagels, little diner cafe where everybody knows your name. In some ways, it's like very classic American, like eggs and pancake, but they also have New York style deli sandwiches. But that's another part of Hillcroft. So that's just my bonus. But my last and final pick is the Fiesta Mart at the corner of Bellaire in Hillcroft, because that is its own experience. It is one of the biggest Fiesta Marts in the city. And even on the outside, before you even walk in, it's like a little Mexican market with food trucks and clothing and jewelry. And you go inside and you can find so many things that you can't find anywhere else, like not just from Mexico and different parts of Latin America, but other parts of the world too. And you can get the best bargains on piñatas. You can watch them make tortillas from corn and flour. So many great chiles. I love Fiesta. The prices are great. It's a whole experience that's completely underrated. And yeah, we always go to get the Diana picnic cookies, which were like this classic Salvadoran wafer cookie. But, there's only one Diana, so we have to go to Fiesta to get it.
The corn in the cup outside Fiesta. That used to be like a weekly treat, and it is so good. But it's basically corn, then you add mayonnaise and spices and all sorts of things. But it is so good. And I always remember as a kid going to that Fiesta and getting corn in the cup.
And it's funny, that Fiesta Mart right there, I've started going to that. I'm not joking, and here's why. So my brother's dental practice is right across the street. And of course, like when I'm taking my daughter and my wife is with me as well, I'm always the last one to go. So instead of just sitting around, I just cross the street and I go to that Fiesta Mart. So I've already checked that out. There you go. Look at that.
Hey, very nice. And what's been your favorite find so far?
The tortillas. I love the tortillas. H-E-B has like taken over with the handmade tortillas and everybody raves on it, but Fiesta's the OG when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're better.
Ooh, we won't tell H-E-B. We won't tell H-E-B.
All right. I think we prepared every single listener to check out Hillcroft. And one final thought that, again, I want to reiterate what I said earlier. Go in there and try out new places. Go with an open mind. Don't be afraid to just hop into a store or a restaurant and ask for recommendations. That's the best part. I haven't even explored all of Hillcroft, and neither have all of y'all. So it's like, it's ever changing. We're always finding new places. So don't be afraid to try out these places.
Yeah, 100% worth the drive to go and explore some old favorites and try some new adventures.
Yes, definitely recommend it. And all the biggest food critics, when they come, like Anthony Bourdain has been to Hillcroft, Andrew Zimmerman's been there. So they want to come to places that are authentic and good. So, we invite everyone to come at least try us once and see what Hillcroft's all about.
That was so much fun. Ladies, thank you so much. And hey, we're going to have to split a papusa and some gulab jamuns together, okay?
Deal.
Yes. Please come and be my guest. I'm there on Saturdays usually, so you guys have to come by now.
Thank you so much for joining us, Sharan. Laura, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
That was Sharan Gahunia of Raja's Sweets and executive producer Laura Isensee. We've linked to all the restaurants and places we talked about in today's show in the notes. So tell me, what's the next street that we should do a food episode on? Send me your recommendations with the contact info in our show notes or send us a DM on Instagram at CityCastHouston. Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with 3 friends who love to try new places and give us a rating and review while you're at it wherever you're listening. And for even more food tips, check out our daily newsletter, Hey Houston. That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. Our producers were Lizzie Goldsmith and Carleon Jones. Our newsletter editor is Brooke Lewis, and our executive producer is Laura Isensee. I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday with our take on Houston stereotypes. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.
To me, this is one of the best parts of Hillcroft because, sorry, I'm like a little off today.